Okay, so today I'm talking about travel, real stories, real solutions. But before I talk about that, I want to let you know there will be time at the end for questions. When I'm in presentation mode, I can't see people if you have your hands up or anything. So just make sure you save all your questions till the end. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm a wife to a quadriplegic. For 30 years, in June, we will have our 30th anniversary. And his name is Bert Burns. And Bert and I met when I was actually a therapist out in Kansas City at a place called the Rehab Institute of Kansas City. He came there on a sales call. He was not my patient. Everybody says, "Was he your patient?" He was not my patient. Um, and I'm a mom to twins. My twins are adults, they are 24. I'm a recreation therapist by education and experience, but I'm also a wanderlust. As she said, I've been to all 7 continents and all 50 states, and I'm always like, well, where are we going next? Um, I love to garden, and then also I started a podcast because everybody starts a podcast, but it was on accessible travel, and I interviewed a lot of people that travel a little differently, and you can find that's Travel Talk with Joy, and it's under the Wheel the World platform on YouTube. So everyone says the way that you should start out a conversation in something like this is with a good story. And this is my best story that combines disability and travel. So Bert and I were on a long, long flight to Australia. And it's the one thing bad about going far away is you have to get there and it takes a 20-hour flight. So we were on the plane, and one thing that he always does is he always has a Gatorade bottle. People say, well, why a Gatorade bottle? Because it's easier to pee in a Gatorade bottle. He has a suprapubic catheter, and so he just gets out the Gatorade bottle, empties the suprapubic catheter, the tube undoes the clip, puts it in the bottle. I put the cap on, or he puts the cap on it, and I take it to the restroom. But it was like middle of the night flying to Australia. And there was a great movie on. So he gave the bottle to me. I held it and I was like, I'm going to take it in a minute. So I'm watching my TV. Amazing movie. I get about 15 minutes into the movie and I'm just still holding that bottle and I start getting really thirsty. And I forget that it's a bottle of pee and I'm thinking it's a Gatorade bottle. So I just undo the top, take a huge swig, and then I realize this is not Gatorade. And so, the plane hears a shriek. I run to the bathroom, rinse my mouth out, dump the pee out. But so there's a lesson. Use the Gatorade bottle, but empty it immediately because that is not a good thing. So, how did I find out about Wheel the World? As I said, I love to travel so much. And in this picture, you'll see 2 people with spinal cord injuries, and you'll see 2 people in power chairs that have something called spinal muscular atrophy. And SMA is like Lou Gehrig's, a degenerative disease, but you get it when you're very young. Like it could be two. So Corey Lee, if you guys don't know Corey, he's in the green power chair with the sunglasses, and write that name down because he is the most experienced traveler that has a power wheelchair that you have ever seen. Corey has a blog called Curb Free with Corey Lee, and he's fully paid to travel all over the world to showcase how a power chair handles, most recently Dubai. He goes everywhere. I think he's been to like 65 countries so far. But I wanted to meet him and I wanted to go to Chile because I'd never been there. So my husband, Bert, the guy that's bald, we go on this trip to Patagonia and I get to meet Corey, hang out with Corey for the week. But also on this group trip, which I was like, I don't know about a group trip with a bunch of people in wheelchairs, but I was so curious about him that I said, okay, let's do it. We go on this group trip, and this is what it looks like. So accessible, beautiful vistas, beautiful shopping day in Santiago. This middle picture, they're getting my husband out of this incredible um, outdoor springs, hot springs in the middle of nowhere in Chile. Accessible transportation, accessible activities. This is the way this trip looked, and I did not do one thing. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I did not know accessible travel existed. I was always just the person, making the phone call. He needs a roll in shower, or we want to do this activity. Can he do it? Like always making all these phone calls, and it was exhausting. And I came back and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I need to work for this company that planned this trip. And the company was Wheel the World. So, how Wheel the World started, it was really just a group of friends. They didn't even start, they didn't know an intention of starting a company. They just wanted to go on a trip. And in this picture, you'll see the orange wheelchair, and this is called a Yolette wheelchair. It's a French chair that is designed for single track hiking. So a trek that's only one wheel. If you had two wheels, you couldn't get up it. And this is actually a Sherpa system. So there's someone in the front and someone in the back and one wheel underneath. And so these people in the front and the back are guiding this chair up. And if you go look up, the Wheel the World Trek to Patagonia, you'll see that this trek is no joke. It is going up massive rocky facing mountains. It was really, really intense. And they filmed a lot of it as they were doing it, and they came down and they uploaded this video and it went viral. And the guy in the chair, Alvaro, he was in business school at the time at Berkeley, and they came down from this trip and they're like, wow, this is what we're supposed to do with our education. So this is Alvaro, one of the co-founders. He had a spinal cord injury when he was 18. Excuse me. But he always wanted to keep exploring the world. His family were big travelers, and he's like, I don't want it to stop. So after they came down from this trek, he and his friend Camilo said, let's start a company, but not a travel agency. This is going to be a travel platform. So a travel platform is like a tech based. So think of Travelocity or Expedia. Those are travel platforms, full service with, a lot of tech work in the background. That's a lot of connections that I don't even know how to make, but these guys knew how to do it. So they spent a long time figuring this out. And what they developed was wheeltheworld.com. So wheeltheworld.com has hotels, transportations, and experiences for people like yourself with a disability. There's detailed, structured accessibility information personalized to everyone's needs. And when I saw this for the first time, I was just like blown away. I couldn't believe that this is how this worked. So let's stop for a sec and let's talk about like what word describes your experience with traveling with a disability. If anybody wants to take their mic off, their mute off, and give me a word that describes your experience with traveling with a disability.
Mm, broken wheel.
It's a bad experience. Yes. What else? What are any other words that describe an experience traveling with a disability? Here's some that you might think about. Frustrating, challenging, difficult, scary, anxious, uncertain, and stressful were some of the ones that people have come up with before. Broken wheel, we'll add that to the list. But, this is the reality. And, the number one reason that people don't, or like around the world, don't travel is because of money. But in the disability community, the number two reason they don't travel is fear. And, you know, that's that's it's not okay. It's like how can we change that and how can we help that? The reality is that you go into a room, this is a beautiful room, but look how high that bed is. How do you get into that bed? Or, you get to the bathroom and this is what the shower looks like. I look at this shower and there's so many things wrong with this shower. The shower bench, it's angled down, so you kind of slide off if you dare sit on this bench, but it was about the size of a 15-inch laptop, and it was something that couldn't hold anybody's butt. And then if you're traveling by yourself, look how far that picture on the right, look how far the handle is away from the bench. Like, how is this person even showering? The water's not even hitting them. And look where the grab bars are. Like, The grab bars should be over there close to the bench for the person sitting on the bench, most likely, but they put them way over in the corner, nothing to do with the bench. And this is the reality of what it looks like, you know? Here's other experience. And I took all of these pictures. So this is not AI. This is me taking pictures on vacation with my husband. This is all the same city, the same day. And look at all of these entrances have just one step. And they're like, "Oh, it's just one step." But, my husband on this trip was using a power chair. And so one step made it inaccessible for him. And then the funniest thing of all, look at this center picture. I don't even understand who this person was that built this building. They made the entrance have a step, but then they made an automatic door opener for someone in a wheelchair getting in this door, even though it has a step. Like, there's so many questions I want to ask these people. But this is what travel looks like. It's the bed that's too high, it's the shower that is unsafe, and then you get places and it looks like this when accessibility doesn't have to be so hard. This was also on the same trip. This $100 ramp changed the day for some people. And this is what accessible travel is. It's uh, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? So what we've done at Wheel the World is we have verified hotel accessibility information. So what happens is you go into our site and you create a profile. And on that profile, it's going to have all of your needs. It's the bed height you want. And this is something that I learned is that when I went and traveled with Corey Lee, my husband was using a manual chair. He wanted like a 25-inch high bed. Corey, who uses a power chair, he wants a 30-inch high bed. I didn't realize there was so much difference in desire of bed height. I just thought, well, everybody wants the same height and that's in a wheelchair. Not the case. So we ask you your bed height preference, your shower preference, door width, like all those kind of things that are so specific for your chair. And then what we've done is we've gone into hotels, and this was the thing I couldn't believe that they were doing. We've gone into over 2,200 rooms and counting, and we're there with a tape measure and we're measuring because we don't take Marriott's word for it that it's accessible. Because again, accessible for who? We're measuring the bed height, measuring the circumference in the shower. Can you turn around in the shower? Measuring the door width, um, where the outlets are next to the bed in case you need to plug your chair in for the night. Measuring the height of the mirror. So many times my husband's in there shaving and he has no idea what he's shaving because the mirror is too high for him. So we're measuring all these things because at the end of the day, you're going to go to our website, you're going to see, oh, there's the accessible room, and then you're going to be able to see, okay, the door width is 38 inches, the toilet height is 47 inches, the bed height's 31 inches. Does this work for you? And so it's not saying, oh, here's the accessible room for you. No, this is saying, here's the dimensions, and then you get to decide, does it work for you? And this has been incredible for us, like just a humongous game changer. So you make your choice, and then the key is that then our travel planners will contact the hotel to make sure you're getting the right room. With our system, we have the back end to the hotels, so we're actually picking the exact room to put you in. So, there's no more questions. And if for some reason you show up and the room isn't right, you get your money back. That's the kicker, and we've used them so many times, I've never had it wrong, but my friend, if I'm being honest, he showed up and they said, "Oh, yeah, we gave your room away." And even though it wasn't Wheel the World's fault, he still got his money back and we found him a different room. So it's a flawless system. It just takes the idea of, okay, I'm not gonna go on the Marriott site. I'm gonna go to Wheel the World site, but you can still get your Marriott points when you show up at the hotel, just so you know. People always say, "Can I still get my points?" But this has been a huge change for our comfort when we travel because now there's no more like, oh my gosh, is it going to be accessible, not accessible? So Wheel the World has changed that a lot. This is my husband and I in Spain. You'll see this is a little bit of a family album, but that's okay. We're getting to know each other. But so what we do other than just hotel rooms, we do adventures around the world. We have group trips and vacation packages. The vacation packages, we say, okay, Here's our vacation package to Rome, a 7 night, 8 day stay. Here's what we have, and you can say if this is good for you. Um, these are some of the places that we go around the world. I mean, it's everything from Machu Picchu, South Africa, Costa Rica, Chile, to Mexico, Greece, Spain, and Italy. All places that people often go, oh, it's too hard to plan in a wheelchair. I mean, that's why I'd never been to Chile. It's like, I don't know anything about Chile. I don't know what that would look like. So we're here to help you just have a little more confidence in the planning. But also, these are trips around the US. We have hotels all over the US, but also in some of these places, we also know things to do that it makes your trip more enjoyable because, the reality is you get to the destination and then you're like, well, what now? What attractions are there to go to in the destination? And these that just makes it easy and you don't have to worry about flying overseas if that's a question for you. Start to finish accessibility, accessible transportation, accessible accommodations with bed your height, and then accessible things to do on these trips. You know, after so my husband used to use a manual chair all the time, C67 quad he's been a quad for 42 years. And after he started using a power chair, we realized how accessible transportation is so hard to find. And, some cities they have like the Wave, Uber Wave, but not everybody has that. And so, having a service where we can know that when we're in Rome, we can find accessible transportation easier. That's been so reassuring when we travel now that we don't have to worry about that. But a little more about my husband. And this is where I wanted to share with you some lessons of travel that you may not have thought about. So this is 1983. This is a racing wheelchair in 1983, right after he got out of rehab in 82. He was all into racing. People told him about that when his recreation therapist actually told him about wheelchair racing and he got into it. Well, in 1983, he went to some wheelchair games up in Pennsylvania. And there were all these cute volunteers. This is pre-me, of course. All these cute volunteers. And he had all this. They brought all of his loads of stuff into his room. He was traveling with a shower chair with a dill stick, with an extra sliding board. He had like this big pile of stuff and he got it. All volunteers brought it into his room for him. And the roommate they assigned to comes in the room. He's like, hey, you know, what's all this stuff? And he's like, well, I'm Bert and I'm a quad and I need all this stuff when I travel. And the guy was like, hey, my name's John and I'm a C6 quad too and you don't need all this stuff when you travel. And from there, this guy showed him so many tricks of the trade of how you can travel lighter. And it was this lesson that travel can teach you things you would have never learned. When I travel on my own, there's so many things I learned from traveling that I never thought about before. And it's little things. But for him in that moment, those were big things he learned that he used for the rest of his life. So fast forward. So that was uh 83. This is 92. So he's gained a little muscle. The track chairs have changed significantly, and this is at the 1992 Barcelona Paralympics. He did the 5,000 marathon and relay events. And again, the cute volunteers, they follow him everywhere. And he had met volunteers at the Olympic Village. And after he was done with his events, they were like, hey, you should come to our place for dinner. So he's like, of course, I want to go to your place for dinner. He arrives, and it is a 3-story apartment building with no elevator. And he's like, shoot, no elevator. Okay, how are we going to make this work? Well, he learns that time how to go up steps. And he said he went up 3 flights of steps on his butt, one at a time, one at a time, one at a time, to get to the 3rd floor. But dinner was worth it. But it's travel makes you to be creative with inaccessibility. That was his example. My example with him is our beds. You know, prior to Wheel the World, and then sometimes if Wheel the World isn't in the city and we go to a city and the bed is too high, what do? We're there. It's 10 o'clock at night. And we've had to do this probably 50 times. It happens a lot, is especially before Wheel the World, is we get there, the bed's way too high, and they say, well, that's all we have. And we ask them to remove the box springs or remove the bed frame and put the bed directly on the floor. And this has been huge because it's unsafe to get into bed, that's like doing a circus trick to get into bed. And every time it's happened where the people say, okay, now one time they said no, but then we just called housekeeping instead of the front desk, and housekeeping said sure. So, it really teaches you how to be creative with inaccessibility. Another time we were in Europe and the door width to the bathroom wasn't big enough. And the creativity with that was have engineering come and take the door off the bathroom frame. And that was a great way to be able to still get in the bathroom, stayed at the same hotel, but sometimes you just have to be a little creative. So, fast forward, this is now last summer. My husband has gone from using a manual wheelchair for 38 years and now he's using a power chair. And he told me, he said, I just want to be able to try to travel by myself again. Because for 38 years, he was traveling by himself until his disability became a little more progressed. And he said, I want to go travel by myself. And he and I had a trip to go to Madrid. And from there, I was leaving and I was going to go see my sister. And he said, I think I'm going to go and I'm going to go to Milan by myself. And I thought, this is such a bad idea. This is not a good idea at all. You haven't traveled by yourself in a while. I don't think this is good. But he's hard-headed, so he said, I'm going to do it. So he booked with Wheel the World accessible accommodations, and he also found a assistant that could help him over there get in and out of bed because he's not independent with that anymore. And you know, he found accessible tours. And so even though it took a lot more planning with accessible tours, making sure his room was accessible, making sure he had accessible, not help, making sure he had aides that could help him. It's the reality that it gave him more confidence as being a power chair user that he never was a power chair user before. So travel gives you confidence that translates to daily life. When he came back from that trip, it was like you thought he like went to college again or something. He had this just new comfort in his new body and his new wheelchair. And he was like, I can do anything, even though it takes more effort. And he said at the end, he said, you know, I I don't think I would have chosen to go by myself if I could do it all again because I like to share travel experience. He said it made me feel more confident. So, travel gives you confidence that translates to daily life. My final story is this is Bert and me about 6 months ago. And this is we are in Madrid. And if you look at the wheelchair here, this is a wheelchair he never thought he'd use. And this is called a carbon ultralight, Jazzy Carbon Ultralight. It is a folding travel chair. He's like, oh, I used to always think only old people use those. But what we learned after having years of in a manual chair, then he transitioned to a power chair that was a big power chair. He realized there's a way to have another chair because when you have a travel chair that folds like a stroller, it can go on the airplane 95% of the time. When you have a chair that folds like a stroller, you can go in a taxi and not have to worry about wheelchair accessible taxis. And it's been a huge, huge game changer for him. And this right here, it weighs 32 pounds. So I can load it in and out of a taxi, in and out of my car by myself, but it gives him the ability to feel independent when we are going places and up inclines that he didn't have. So, the lesson here, travel is always possible, but it might change as you change. And, for all of you that are listening, I don't know if you've been in a chair for 6 months or 26 years or somewhere in between, but everybody's going to change. My husband says that, there's this bell curve in rehab, and you start down here on the bottom of the bell, and it's a struggle. It's a struggle. And you get stronger and stronger, and you're doing really well. And then as he's aged, 40 years in a chair, he's over here on the other side of the bell. But it's if you keep changing and adapting, it could be adapting equipment, it could be adapting level of care that you need. Travel is always still possible. So, what has accessible travel done for us? It has taken so much stress off me, whether I'm the able-bodied person, I don't think that has to do with it. I think it's I'm the mom in our family, and so I'm always the travel planner. And now that I've been involved with accessible travel, it's brought a stress-free lightness to travel, because I know when I show up, it's going to be done, and the person that has planned it understands our needs. And so for us, it's just opened things up. It's, on the left, this is a trip to Rome. And if you see how close the Colosseum is there, it's because the travel planner knew that Bert used a wheelchair and there was a manual chair and that he didn't want to be on cobblestone much. So she had the driver drop us off at the closest place to the Colosseum so we didn't have to do a lot of um, pushing on cobblestone. Also on this trip, we went to a place called San Gimignano that it's big uphill medieval city. The travel planner knew, okay, he probably needs some power. So I'm going to offer them a scooter. And so she said, would you like to rent a scooter for the day? So when we went to, this medieval town, we rented the scooter for the day and it got us to places that he couldn't have gone to very easily in his manual chair. Over on the far right, that's in Iceland. And accessible travel, they booked us a tour that was literally on a boat that went into a lagoon with icebergs all around us. And I would have never thought that was possible, but an accessible travel planner knows, yes, there's a boat that goes to a lagoon in the middle of Iceland that has a ramp. And we were able to do these experiences that I had kind of just thought, that's too big. That can't happen because my mind can't even understand it. Who do I call in Iceland to find the boat? Because I didn't know there was the boat. So accessible travel has done everything for us, probably 50 times. And it always makes me just want to like get out there and explore. And it was all designed for all, different types of disabilities, because at Wheel the World, we actually do a lot of physical disabilities, but also when we do all of our mapping, we map for visual disabilities. We even do some different types of sensory, because right now sensory disabilities are such a huge issue for some people with autism. And if you go to Wheel the World's YouTube page, you'll see so many different videos that we're doing in different cities with different people where the city wants to highlight that they're great for, wheelchair users or seniors or someone who is blind. And so we do beautiful video projects. And this is one of my very, very favorites. Thank you, Megan.
If you want, we can talk about what led us to use wheels instead of legs. That way, we can tell you the sad version and version 2.0, which is even sadder. Or if you'd rather, we could do it like the movies. And we'll embellish everything with a tearful story of effort and determination. But there's something we have to tell you. We're not superheroes. We didn't feel like them when we climbed to over 2,430 meters above sea level, or in the most beautiful and incredible places in the world. Unlike superheroes, we thought the same thing anyone would. We felt grateful to be there because it made us understand several things. But before we start to tell you, could you please change the music? Because there in Machu Picchu, we realized that despite everything, this is not a cheap imitation of life. This is not a copy or a simulation. This is not a lake that longs with all its heart to be the sea. This, my friends, is life. Life at its fullest. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. Believe us, we are saying this for every tear shed, for every person hugged. In flickering neon lights with fireworks lighting up the sky, life. Pack your bags, recover the ability to wonder, open your heart and let it explore. But even then, you won't be prepared for this because we are not inviting you to travel. We are inviting you to live.
I just love that video. I hope that, for you guys out there that, like I said, whether you're brand new to injury or whether you've been injured 30 years, like that it really does make you pause and think, okay, life is still great and I still want to explore. This guy right here in this picture in the light blue shirt, it's my friend named Ryan. And Ryan was in Afghanistan about 6 years ago and he was an Army Ranger, got in a huge firefight, lost his arm, uh, his leg below the knee, and then he had a hemipelvectomy on the other side, which means his whole pelvis, like basically, take your belly button and go all the way over to the side, and that's all gone. And I asked him about travel because I met him on a trip, and he said, um, trauma, you can't let it take away that part of your life. That adventure is still in your heart and should keep you alive. And that was his exact quote. And this dude's like operating with, you know, I not even 2/3 of his body, half his body. And he's just like, no, that is a huge part of me. And I don't want trauma to blow that away. So, however you came to this group tonight and whatever your story is, some people, travel's not a big deal. I have friends like that. Like they say, I can just stay in Georgia. I don't need to go places. And that's their reality. But for me and my husband, like it makes our marriage to travel, to have that experience of adventure and not have that thought of loss. So I hope wherever you are in your journey that you felt something with today and it makes you maybe have an itch of, okay, I need to try a hotel room. I need to try getting out of, where I am. Or it maybe makes you go, I want to go on that group trip because we would love to have you. Um, the world is too big to let something like your spinal cord injury stop you. So I want to answer questions, but also one of the big things that people question about is how can I travel if I need help and I don't have anybody to travel with? So I want to talk about that. Another one is a lot of people wonder, I don't have any money to travel. What are options?
Your
And
water?
so a couple of things with that. First, money to travel. So money is a huge barrier. And the Curb Free with Corey Lee Foundation, they offer scholarships for travel. And so if you're one of these people being like, I want to travel, I don't have any money and I need to figure out a way that I can make it happen still. Apply with Corey. He gives travel scholarships away. It's great. But then also the idea of, okay, I do have money, but I don't have someone that can come with me when I travel. I have some resources that I will share that it's travel, right? Like travel partners basically that come with someone. So then they have someone to travel with. Um, that time my husband went to Milan unadvised for me last summer. He found a company, it was actually Wheel the World, that connected him with someone in Milan for his assistance there. But um, I will go through also these quick travel tips and then answer any questions. So my problem is I can't see these because I don't have glasses. Can you make this bigger? If you need, there you go. Yes. So some of these are, as if you don't travel at all, because I don't know what your experience is. But Number one, let the airlines know your needs before you travel and request a bulkhead. First thing is, not every wheelchair fits on every plane. So if you use a full power chair, like my husband, I think it's the Q4 Quantum, um, that thing does not fit on every airplane. So you need to make sure that you tell them beforehand so you can make sure it's the right route, right plane. Put an air tag on your chair so you can always track it. My friend Corey, he's like, yeah, I put an air tag always on my chair so I can track it. And sometimes I've seen that my wheelchair is not in the same place I am. So, always a good idea to track your chair. Take off all removable parts and put them in a tote bag to bring on the airplane easily. And don't forget to bring your cushion on a plane. Most people here have spinal cord injuries, and your butt can rule your life. Don't let that idea of, oh, it's just a couple hour flight, I don't need my cushion. You need your cushion. We always bring a cushion on the plane. Pack your backpack with quick fix supplies like zip ties, extra Velcro, duct tape, a bubble wrap to protect your joystick. One of the greatest things about this travel chair I was telling you about, the joystick is removable, and that's usually the thing that always got damaged when you traveled with his other power chair. So when you remove that joystick, um, it's the best thing. But if you can't, use a big thing of bubble wrap to pad it. For your power chair, attach a laminated info sheet to your chair with instructions, your photo, and contact information. This is so good because it lets people see like, oh, this is Bert's chair. I'm going to take care of it because I see this person and it says, how to take it in and out of gear, little instructions like that, and with your phone number. Because twice we had people call us while we were on the plane saying, I can't get it out of gear. Very helpful. Bring a Gatorade bottle on the plane in case of emergencies. And what are you going to do? You're going to empty it as soon as someone gives it to you. And then plan pre-flight meals. People are always like, what about bowel accidents? Well, if you don't eat much the day before, you aren't going to have a bowel accident, probably. And Corey, he tells me, and he does this on social media, so this is not a privacy thing, but he says, I always wear a Depends when I'm traveling on the plane because it just makes me feel a little bit more secure that if I did have a blowout, I would have Depends on to help with that. Carry a day's supplies of medication and your chair chargers. Huge one. I put the chair charger in the wrong bag one time. It's not a good thing. Be an advocate for yourself or your child. If you don't like the way you're being treated, speak up and know the Air Carrier Access Act. Many times when we've gotten on a plane, my husband is now full assist transfer on and off. And, they'll send some people that aren't very strong. And Bert says, I don't feel safe. I need a tall person behind me. And, says it very respectfully, but you're responsible for your care. So if you see people that look like they can't hold you, they probably can't hold you. Another really interesting thing that Corey travels with, it's called an Able Sling, ABLE sling. And he puts on it before he gets in it underneath him before he gets ready that day. And so he's sitting on top of it, kind of has handles down by his knees and the handle up here under his arms. And so it's a very easy two-person assist on and off. That I really think that's a good one. If the bed height is too high, remove the box springs. And finally, using an accessible travel planner that understands your needs, whether that's Wheel the World or Fora Travel. That's another good one that I sometimes use if Wheel the World doesn't go to the place. They understand your needs, and so they're going to make it so much less stressful for yourself when you travel. If you have any other travel tips, I would love to hear those. And if you have any questions, but thank you guys so much for listening to me today. I would love to have you guys follow me on social media, Wheel the World social media. Also, join the Accessible Travel Community because the Wheel the World Facebook group, the Accessible Travel Community, is fabulous. And we'd love for you to be a part of. There's 40,000 people chatting about travel all the time in your situation. So, do you guys have any questions? Anything about me, my husband, the company, anything?